So one aspect of the Hebrew Scriptures that we haven't really camped out on yet is that as you begin to read them and you read it over and over and over and over, you start to see these stories that almost seem to be threaded together with a common word or a common punchline, if you will. And as we get into the book of Genesis, we start to see that one of these threads has to do with someone's name. And it all starts way back, like we said, in the garden, when God called Adam, man, who he made from the Adamah, the soil. And then we talked about what it meant that Adam named Eve. And as you go forward and you get to chapter 11, remember the story of the Tower of Babel, when the people built this giant ziggurat that they wanted to stretch all the way to the heavens so that they could live in the place of the gods. And they said, "Come, let us build for ourselves a tower that stretches to the heavens so that we may make a name for ourselves." In the very next chapter, to start Genesis 12, God comes to Abram and he makes him a promise. He says, "Abram, go from this land to the land I will show you, and I will make your name great." And it's this wonderful dichotomy between when humans choose their own name, when humans try to make a name for themselves, things generally go wrong. But when God calls you by name, you have a destiny, you have a purpose, you have a future. And as the story progresses, we see this thread pieced together by God calling people by name. You see, as you continue in the story, eventually God promises this man Abram a son. And when he does in chapter 17, he tells him, "And no longer will you be called Abram, but I will call you Abraham," which means father of many nations. You see, God changes Abram's name. And he gives him a new name, the name Abraham, the father of many, because he says to Abraham, "You will be a father of many nations." Well, as we continue on and we get to Abraham's grandsons, with the birth of Jacob and Esau, the twin boys, something very interesting happens. You see, Esau, the oldest, is born, and he's red. And so they call him Esau because he's red. But as he's born, his younger brother is holding on to his heel. And as they pull Jacob out, they name him Jacob, for he is grabbing the heel of his brother. Now, that might sound very strange to us today, but actually in the Hebrew language, this is an idiom. It would be almost like in English, as we would say, Jacob is pulling his leg. So to grab the heel in Hebrew is like pulling someone's leg in English. It means you're deceptive. It means you're playing a prank. It means you're joking. But in the Hebrew language, it's a little darker than that. It means to deceive. So to grab the heel is to be deceitful, to be deceptive. So Jacob's name, given by his mother, literally is deceiver, one who deceives, one who is deceptive. Literally, it's heel grabber, but we would say one who is deceptive. And he lives up to his name. And as the story continues, this person, Jacob, shows his true colors as one who deceives. You see, he first starts off by tricking his oldest brother out of his birthright. And then he deceives his father into blessing him instead of his older brother. And then he moves on and eventually deceives his uncle Laban into getting the best of the flock. As the story progresses, Jacob deceives his way into wives and children and wealth, prosperity, riches, livestock. He's gotten everything that he has, all by deception and trickery and deceit. And as he decides to come back to his homeland, and he's marching back into the land of Israel, which isn't called Israel yet, but as he's marching back to that homeland, he knows that his older brother Esau, who he left behind fuming, is going to be waiting for him. And so Jacob comes up with this very deceitful plan. He's going to organize his camp into multiple parties, and he's going to send this group on ahead with gifts for Esau, and then another group will come behind and they'll bring gifts for Esau, and then another group will come behind that and bring gifts. And if at any point Esau gets mad and is not ready to make amends with Jacob, then the person from the group that Esau is going to attack will run back and tell the other groups. And naturally, Jacob puts the ones he hates in the front, or maybe not hates, but naturally, Jacob puts the ones that he doesn't love as much in the front, and the ones that he loves the most, they stay in the back. And Jacob himself is going to be at the far back of this convoy, so that he can be the first to escape if Esau becomes violent. And just before he's about to cross over the river to go and see if Esau will receive him or not, he falls into a sleep, and then all of a sudden this man comes to him. And he begins to wrestle with this man, and it's late at night, and he starts to wrestle, and he comes to find out in the story that this is actually a messenger of God that Jacob is wrestling with. And he wrestles and he's wrestling, and it says he won't let go. And all the way until daybreak he wrestles, and the man says, "Let go of me, I'm done." And Jacob says, "No, I won't let go until you bless me." And the response of this man, who it says in the text that the Lord says, so a spokesperson for God, a messenger from God, an angel from God says, "What's your name?" And Jacob says, "I'm Jacob." And the answer is more than just, "My name is Jacob." The answer is, "I'm the deceiver." What's your name? I'm the one who's deceptive. I'm the trickster. I'm the one who conned my way into everything that I have. And the man says, "No longer will you be called Jacob, but now you will be called Israel. For you have wrestled with God and with man, and have overcome." And that's the text we want to look at today. The story that we want to camp out on is one who wrestles with God. What does it mean that Jacob's name is changed by God to Israel? The name that his children will bear for the rest of eternity. Those who wrestle with God.